This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some big update to share with you. Senate just had a vote on the CHIPS bill and it got advanced. I'll give you more details on that. Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders not happy with this bill at all, despite the bill being a bipartisan bill passing it, getting both Democrats and Republicans on board. Bernie Sanders not happy with that. I'm going to play you the video clip of what Bernie Sanders says. You don't want to miss what he says there. Also, when it comes to stimulus, one state giving out a gas stimulus check refund. Also, another state giving out up to $1,000 to millions of Americans, and I'll give you some other more important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So senators are advancing a computer chips bill. They don't want, and they don't know what's in it yet. So basically, this is almost like a blank check, and the American people don't even really know what's in it either. All we know is that there's a lot of money involved. Senators of both parties agree Congress needs to pass something soon to counter China and try to address the global chip shortage. So if you're not aware, there's a global chip shortage. Democrats are saying that this is going to help the economy, help inflation. I'm not so sure about this. Another headline here, basically the way the votes went out was Senate votes 64-34 to advance CHIPS bill. Significant bipartisan support in first procedural vote signals likely passage of larger package to address chip shortages. So this was a 64-34 vote, meaning that they basically have enough Democrats and Republicans on board to pass this through. Now, if this was anything smaller, it probably wouldn't be a big deal, but it's going to cost, I think, $50 to $70 billion, and which is a lot of money, especially to corporations that already make billions of dollars. But supposedly this is supposed to help our national security and things like that. Senator Warner says chip bill needs to be on President Biden's desk before August. So it looks like this is taking the new priority of Democrats and Congress that Build Back Better has been scrapped. Looks like no more stimulus reconciliation at the moment. So this is going to be the big bill that the Democrats want to get done before the midterm elections. Now, not everybody is a fan of it. Despite Democrats voting for it, Republicans voting for it, Bernie Sanders thinks this money could be used to help out different Americans. Maybe this could go to struggling families who are hungry, or people on disability, or could help out seniors. Bernie Sanders doesn't think that this is a good idea for the bill, or at least maybe the amount of money that would go to these billion-dollar companies. Take a look at what Bernie Sanders has to say, and let me know your opinion if you agree or disagree with Bernie Sanders. Take a look.
Will be able to convince his Republican colleagues and Democratic colleagues as well that among many other reasons why we should vote against this major corporate welfare bill that's coming down the pike, which will add at least $76 billion to the deficit. So if we are concerned about the deficit, as Senator Lee is and many others are, I hope that will be one of the reasons we vote against this massive corporate welfare bill that we will be considering later this afternoon. You know, I hear a lot of concern about the deficit here in the Senate, and I hear people say we can't afford to feed hungry children, can't afford to deal with climate change, we can't afford to guarantee health care to all. Deficit is very, very large. Well, we're talking about $76 billion, at least that, maybe more, which will add to the deficit. So when you consider the deficit, you might want to also take into account tax breaks and corporate welfare for large, profitable corporations. Mr. President, I want to say a few words about this so-called CHIPS bill and what it says about our national priorities, what it says about our tax policies, and basically what it says as to whether or not the U.S. Congress is capable of representing the needs of working families, or whether we are totally beholden to wealthy and powerful corporate interests and their campaign contributions. Last week, when I spoke about this issue, I expressed deep concern that Congress would provide $52 billion to a handful of profitable corporations in the microchip industry with no strings attached. Here it is, guys, $52 billion. Well, I stand corrected. As a result of some new tax reduction language, the corporate welfare total for the microchip industry has gone up. It is now at $76 billion. And the corporate lobbyists working on this bill, like pigs at the trough, are not yet finished. They want more and more and more. Their needs are insatiable. Mr. President, needless to say, I do not usually quote approvingly from the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. They are not my best friends, and in fact, I think I get attacked on that page more than any other member of the Congress. But as you know, a broken clock is right twice a day, and even the Wall Street Journal got this one right. Among the many reasons they urge Congress to vote against this bill is one that I think is very relevant, and let me quote. This is from the Wall Street Journal editorial page today. Quote, "The chip bill isn't needed to compete with China, and it will set a precedent that other industries will follow. Anybody who can throw up a China competition angle will ask for money. Why Republicans want to sign up for this is a mystery," end of quote, Wall Street Journal. And the point they make is a good one. We should be clear that over 90% of the cell phones used in this country, over 90% of the laptops used in this country are made in China. So you pass this bill, and tomorrow we'll hearing, I no doubt, from the cell phone industry, from the computer laptop industry, about how they need their welfare checks as well. So I think the Wall Street Journal, every once in a while, makes a good point. Today they did. Mr. President, I recently came across a very, very interesting interview that the CEO of Intel, Mr. Pat Gelsinger, did last Friday on CNBC's Squawk Box. And I think that interview that he did tells us everything that we want to know about the American oligarchy, about corporate arrogance, and the state of American politics. And this is what Mr. Gelsinger said last Friday, and I quote, Mr. Gelsinger, head of Intel, quote, "My message to congressional leaders is, hey, if I'm not done with the job, I don't get to go home. Neither should you. He's talking to Congress. Do not go home for August recess until you are past the CHIPS Act, because I and others in the industry will make investment decisions. And do you want those investments in the U.S., or are we simply not competitive enough to do them here, and we need to go to Europe or Asia for those? Get the job done. Do not go home for August recess without getting these bills passed," end of quote. That's Pat Gelsinger, head of Intel, last Friday. In other words, Mr. President, the CEO of a major corporation, which made nearly $20 billion in profits last year, and a CEO who received a $179 million compensation package, is saying to Congress that if you don't give my industry, the microchip industry, $76 billion, and my company, it is estimated, some $20 or $30 billion, that despite their profound love for our country and their respect for American workers and their understanding of the needs of the U.S. military and the healthcare industry, despite all of that, in order to make more profits, they are prepared to go to Europe and Asia. Now, Mr. President, I am thankfully not a lawyer, but that sure sounds like extortion to me. What Mr. Gelsinger is saying is that if you don't give the industry a blank check, here's $76 billion, and they want more, by the way, despite the needs of the military for advanced microchips, and we hear that from the military, despite the needs of the medical industry for advanced microchips, despite the entire needs of the American economy for advanced microchips, the industry is threatening to abandon this country and move abroad. Patriotic people, no doubt, clearly lovers of America. Mr. Gelsinger says we should stay in session, if necessary, through August in order to pass his legislation. Well, I think we might want to stay in session through August, but not necessarily to pass his legislation. Because what I hear from the people in Vermont and people all across this country is that the job they want done is not a massive handout to large, profitable corporations. The job they want Congress to do is for a change to protect the American working class, our middle class, and the needs of the most vulnerable people in this country. What I hear is that the American people want us to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child, as every other major country on earth does. What I hear is that the American people think it's absurd that some of the wealthiest people in this country and largest corporations don't pay a nickel in federal taxes, and that we should demand that those loopholes be ended. What I hear is that the American people want us to deal with the existential threat of climate change so that the young people of this country can actually have a planet that they can grow up with in a healthy way. What I hear from the elderly people of this country and my state is they can't make it on the Social Security benefits they're receiving now. They want to raise those benefits. What I hear from the people back home is they want Congress to do the job and protect a woman's right to control her own body. They want to see us pass serious gun safety legislation, and they want to protect the rights of all Americans to be able to vote. That, among many other things, is what I hear from the American people in terms of getting the job done. Not too many people that I can recall, and I've been all over this country, say, Bernie, you go back there and you get the job done. And you give enormously profitable corporations who pay outrageous compensation packages to their CEOs, billions and billions of dollars in corporate welfare. Now, maybe, Mr. President, you hear that. I don't hear that from the people in my state. And by the way, when we talk about an expenditure of $76 billion, yeah, we can give it to some large profitable corporations with no strings attached, or we can use it, $76 billion, to expand Medicare to provide senior citizens with the high-quality hearing aids and eyeglasses that they desperately need, and for a bit more, we can provide dental care as well. For $76 billion, we could eliminate homelessness in America and create hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs from Maine to California, building all of the affordable rental units that this country desperately needs. Yeah, we can end homelessness or give a corporate welfare check to profitable corporations. Mr. President, for $76 billion, we could make every community college in America tuition-free for the next 7 years. Go home and ask the people whether they think they'd rather spend money on allowing our young people to be able to go to community college tuition free or a welfare check to large profitable corporations. And on it goes. $76 billion is a lot of money. I know Ms. Senator Lee probably would prefer to see that go into deficit reduction, fair enough. And I'm concerned about deficit reduction, but I'm making the point that we can invest this in a way that really improves lives for millions and millions of working families. Mr. President, there is no doubt that there is a serious global shortage in microchips and semiconductors, which is making it harder for manufacturers to produce the cars, the cell phones, and the electronic equipment that we need. The shortage is costing American workers good jobs and raising prices for families. And that is why I strongly support efforts to expand U.S. microchip production. But the question we should be asking is this: should American taxpayers provide the microchip industry with a blank check of $76 billion at a time when semiconductor companies are making tens of billions of dollars a year in profits and paying their CEOs very high salaries and compensation packages? And I think the answer to that is a resounding no. And it's important, in light of Mr. Gelsinger's remarks and his threat to go to Asia or to Europe, to have a little bit of history about this issue. Mr. President, over the last 20 years, the microchip industry has shut down over 780 manufacturing plants in the United States and eliminated 150,000 American jobs while moving most of its production overseas. And they did that, by the way, after receiving $9.5 billion in government subsidies and loans. In other words, we have the absurd situation where we have a crisis that is caused precisely by the people we are now attempting to bail out. So as a reward for their bad behavior, for shutting down 780 manufacturing establishments in America, they come back and say, oh, we have a crisis in America, we need your help. So they want us to pay to undo the damage they caused. Well, that may make sense to someone, but not to me. In total, Mr. President, it has been estimated that 5 major semiconductor companies will receive the lion's share of this technology handout. Those companies are Intel, Texas Instruments, Micron Technology, Global Foundries, and Samsung. These 5 companies made $70 billion in profit last year. The company that will likely benefit the most from this taxpayer assistance is Mr. Gelsinger's company, Intel. Now, I have nothing against Intel, and I wish them the best, but Intel is not a poor company. Last year, Intel made nearly $20 billion in profit. During the pandemic, Intel had enough money to spend $16.6 billion, not on research and development, not on building new plants, but on buying back its own stock to reward its executives and wealthy shareholders. Over the past 20 years, Intel has spent over $100 million on lobbying and campaign contributions. Say $100 million may seem like a lot of money, but if you're about to get $20 billion from the taxpayers of America, that is a very modest investment. And meanwhile, while they spent $100 million on lobbying and campaign contributions, they were shipping thousands of jobs to China and other low-income countries. Does this really sound like a company that needs a taxpayer handout?
What are your thoughts on what Bernie Sanders said? Do you agree or disagree with him? Should this bill go through, or could the $50 billion be used to help out Americans who are struggling? Let me know your thoughts on all that. When it comes to stimulus, gas stimulus check from Missouri, how can you claim it? So I'm going to be honest, had to read this a couple times before I was able to understand it. So basically, in 2021, Missouri raised its state gas tax, and as a result, the government came up. All right, so thereby increasing the price that residents had to pay at the pump. So to offer some relief for the increased tax, the government came up with the state's gas tax rebate program. However, Missouri residents can only claim the gas stimulus check if they have valid receipts. So basically, you would have to prove how much gas you bought, basically how much gallons, and then let me get to the part where it explains it more. I think it's right here. So so Missouri raised the gas tax to 19 cents per gallon in October of last year and to 22 cents per gallon on July of 2022. The rise in tax is part of the state's plan to increase the gas tax by 0.2025 cents a year until it reaches 0.295 cents in July of 2025. So basically, the way you claim this money is really interesting. So between October 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, you would have to have your receipts of how much gas you bought, and then you get a refund of 0.025 cents per gallon. So not really sure how much you can make off this. Maybe, after doing the math in my head, maybe if you do have your receipts, if you're in Missouri, you have the receipts between October and June of this year, you can maybe get $20 at most, I could see from this. That's like on the high end, maybe $5 to $10. It really depends on how much you drive, but you're going to get 0.025 cents per gallon that you have. So it's like 2 cents. Yeah, it's a really interesting program, and they want to give some money back, but it really isn't that much, in my opinion. I guess it's something. Moving on to other types of stimulus payments worth up to $1,050 to be sent to millions in California. So we've been hearing about this California stimulus check of $350 per person, and then times 3, so $350 for a couple, it's $700. Then if you have a dependent, it's $1,050. So millions of Californians will be receiving up to $1,050 as part of the new middle class tax rebate. That's more money in your pocket to help you fill your gas tank and put food on the table, according to Gavin Newsom. So we're still waiting to see when these checks are going out. This is also, in addition to the other, I think 2 or 3 rounds of stimulus checks going on in California. So a lot of stimulus in California. Should other states do it? But then again, a lot of other states may not have as much money as California. But should there be more help in other states? Let me know your thoughts on that. That is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Oh, guys, I didn't see you there. Hi, guys, this is Bella's tip of the day. I want to tell you the one thing that you should do when you feel something. If you feel something like happy or sad, tell someone. Be exposed. Show the whole world what you feel. Sorry, I was dreaming. So, anyways, that was all I wanted to say for today. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate all of your time and support in the channel. To show my appreciation to you, I'm giving out those $200 checks, so be aware of that. Details down in the description below of how you could sign up. And yeah, all is good. All is good in the hood over here. Hopefully you're having a great rest of your day. If you want to check out my other videos, my other channels, you could click up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.